any updates. I mean, I will because we have a test, but I don't have an updated schedule yet. So papers have a due date, right? Papers are due, I'm fishing because I don't remember what I set the due date of papers is. Hang on a minute. What did we say? Papers are due
15th?
this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday the 15th, yeah.
That sounds right. Yes, thank you. Next Wednesday the 15th. Okay, I'm just pulling up my, where am I? Nope, nope, nope. Okay, next Wednesday the 15th. Are there questions about the papers? Anything at this point in time? I've gotten some questions about sources to approve. I'm more than happy to look at those. Daniel?
I guess. If our like crypto system involves a bunch of other like hash functions and IDEA and stuff like that, like I guess, I mean, there's enough information to like not go into them because, you know, like that's what other people are doing, but do you want us to try to write about those two and give like a,
it's up
just
to
like
you.
Okay.
Maybe a quick, like, you can see how long your paper is and where, if this fits in naturally or not. I would at least do a cursory reference to, this is a quick thing that we're doing. This is like, don't just throw a term out there and not explain it, if that makes sense, but you don't have to do a completely total in-depth explanation. Is that a good compromise? Does that make sense? Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. Other questions about the papers? Other questions about the papers? Anything else? Okay. I haven't set this up on Moodle yet, but I will set up a place for you to submit your paper. And again, if you could please submit it as a PDF, that would be great. That would be really helpful to me, especially because it is a word count versus length, so I can check word count as opposed to having to check margins and everything in a Microsoft Word document. So that's why we can do it that way. Let's see, other things. So presentations, my goal today is to write a test. So we need to get past that first. And then what I'm going to figure out is the schedule for the rest of the semester. So when exactly we're doing presentations, if you want to do them synchronously, if you want to do them asynchronously, you can figure out how you want to do it. If you want to do it asynchronously, that's fine. We'll figure out a way for you to submit that. If you want to do it synchronously, we'll set aside some days for that as well. And remember, your responsibility for other people's presentations is to watch. I said 5 of them, and I'll have a form for you to fill out in terms of just some quick questions. What are you thinking about? What are you not? So if we do a bunch of them synchronously and you decide you don't want to sign in, that's okay. But I'll get a schedule out and topics and presentations, etc. I'm adjusting my expectations at this point in this semester. So I will have more information for you on the logistics and dates of presentations after we finish with the test. Okay. Other general questions before we do review what's expected, what you can have, and then we'll talk about test logistics. Anything else before we go on? No. Okay. So let's talk through stuff that is Whirlwind Tour. So we started with key exchange protocols. So you should be able to explain the key exchange problem again, basically what's going on with that. We talked about the Shamir 3-pass protocol. So you should be able to execute the Shamir 3-pass protocol and make sure you get the actual key back. And then we talked about the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. That was the mixing of paint. Remember, paint buckets? So you should be able to execute the Diffie-Hellman key exchange as well and demonstrate that Alice and Bob do in fact get the same key when they send these buckets of paint across to each other. We talked about public key cryptosystems. So you should be able to explain the general theory behind a public key cryptosystem. Remember, every public key cryptosystem is based on some hard problem. The Diffie-Hellman, or I'm sorry, RSA is based on the hardness of factoring. That factoring is a hard thing to do. Elgamal is based on the discrete log problem being hard. So every single public key cryptosystem is based on the problem that we think, we hope is hard, and then we go from there. You should be able to execute the RSA cryptosystem to encrypt and decrypt, also both if you have a public-private key pair. You should be able to explain why RSA works. I'm not going to make you do this for every cryptosystem because some of them are way more complicated, but for RSA, you should be able to explain why it works. And when I say explain why it works, I mean, give me a sequence of equations so that if you encrypt and then decrypt a message, you get the same message back again. So again, I'm not going to require this for every single cryptosystem, but RSA is easy enough, basic enough that you should be able to do this. Okay, we did a lot with the security of RSA. So the basic idea for the security of RSA is you should be able to go around that circle. So you should be able to start at any point in that circle and move to another point in that circle. So if you have D, you should be able to find a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n. If you have a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n, you should be able to factor. Obviously, if you can factor, you can find P and Q. And if you can find P and Q, then you can find phi of n. If you are able to find phi of n, then you should be able to find D. So you should be able to go all the way around that circle. Speaking of the protocols that you can write out, and we'll go back to what other protocols you can have for cryptosystems in a minute, but the protocols that you can write out for going around that circle are going from, hang on just 1 minute, I want to know which ones you should have memorized and which ones I want you to know. You should clearly be able to go from factoring n to finding P and Q. That's no problem. You should be able to do that by hand. Finding P and Q to finding phi of n, you should be able to do. Finding phi of n to finding D, you should be able to do by hand. Finding phi of n to finding D, you should be able to do by hand. And then the other two, you can do having the protocols written out. So knowing D, finding a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n, you can write that protocol out. And if you have a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n, factoring n, you can write that protocol out. So those are the two protocols that you can write out. Given D, find a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n. Given a non-trivial square root of 1 mod n, factor n. Those are the two protocols for that circle that you could write out. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up. That makes sense. Those are the.
Do you mean we can write them out beforehand?
Yes,
beforehand
yes,
of the test?
yes.
Okay.
You can have those on a cheat sheet. Yes. Okay. So you should be able to do all of those. Let's see. Moving on from RSA to digital signatures. So you should know how to generate an RSA signature. You should know how to generate an RSA signature. You do not need to know blind signatures. That was interesting, but it is not something that I will put on the test. So I will not put blind signatures on the test. We started talking about integers mod n. So you should know the group generated by A. You should be able to compute that. The group generated by A mod n. You should be able to compute that. You should know the definition of a primitive root mod p. So you should know the definition of a primitive root mod p. And you should be able to determine which elements of ZP star are and are not primitive roots mod p. So you should know the definition of primitive roots mod p, and you should know which elements are and are not primitive roots mod p. You should be able to explain the discrete log problem. So what exactly is the discrete log problem? What information are we given? What information are we looking to find? This is, again, one of the very common hard problems in cryptography. So this one you should be able to explain. Elgamal, you should be able to encrypt and decrypt using Elgamal. Should be able to encrypt and decrypt using Elgamal. I am not going to require you to answer why Elgamal works. That one you don't need to know. Those set of equations you do not need to know. You should also be able to sign messages and verify messages using Elgamal. Sign and verify messages using Elgamal. Once again, you do not need to know how that works or why it works. Rather, you don't have to give me the equations to demonstrate that it works. For the digital signature algorithm, you should be able to sign and verify messages using the digital signature algorithm. You do not need to know how to generate global values. I will give you the values for the digital signature algorithm. You do not need to know how to generate global values, but you should be able to use to execute the digital signature algorithm. And then we've got primality testing. So you should be able to use any of the 3 primality tests to determine if a number is composite for sure or probably prime. All right. And you should also understand, if I give you a theorem, how to make a primality test out of it. So thinking about converse, thinking about contrapositive, we did that especially with the Solovay-Strawson primality test at the very end. I kind of gave you this theorem and then we worked at making a primality test out of it. You should be able to do that. If I give you a theorem, you should be able to state the converse, state the contrapositive, and then design a primality test based on it. What's your input? What's your protocol? What's your output? Okay. All of that said, you can write out protocols for how things work, most of them. RSA is the one that I would like you to know. So RSA is the one that I would like you to know without having the protocol written out. That's basic enough. That is hopefully easy enough that you should know RSA. But the rest of these, pretty much anything else, and if you have a specific question, feel free to ask. Elgamal, you can write out. The Shamir 3-pass protocol for key exchange, the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, those you can write out. The process, the protocol for the digital signature algorithm, you can write out. The protocol for any of the primality tests, you can write out. If you use the Solovay-Strawson primality test, the process for evaluating the Jacobi symbol, you can write out. So any of those protocols you can totally have in front of you. I don't have them memorized. I'm not expecting you to have them memorized. RSA is the only one that I want you to know off the top of your head. Does that sound fair? Are we okay with that? Does that make sense? I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. Yes, good. Okay. All right. That is the whirlwind tour of everything. Questions on what might be on the test, what might not be on the test, computational stuff, etc. And then we'll talk about the logistics of the Zoom test in just a minute. But any questions up to this point about content, what you can and can't have, what you can and can't use, etc. Questions? Now is a really good time to ask. Jason, yeah. Sorry, Elijah, one sec. Jason first and then Elijah. Jason.
Will we need to know like pseudo primes or like strong pseudo primes?
Pseudo primes, yes. I would say those you should know. Strong pseudo primes and Euler liars, no. But pseudo primes you should. That you should know what the definition of a pseudo prime to the base A is. That's the definition you should have. Elijah.
So if I have the protocol like implemented in like a program, is that okay to have? Like not, I wouldn't be using the program, but just that as my notes.
Yes, that's fine as notes. Yes. Yeah, I need to see enough work that I can tell you we're doing this by hand as opposed to just putting something into a program and getting something out. And again, I will give you smallish numbers. So for example, if I put a primality test on there, it's gonna be really stupid primality test because you're gonna know whether the number is prime or composite. The point is I want you to walk through the process of the primality test. Same idea with Algol or with RSA or with the key exchange. I'll give you small enough numbers that it makes sense to do by hand with the calculator. If you want to use Perry during the test, you certainly can. That's fine. If you want to use Wolfram Alpha to use calculations, you can use that as well. But some computing device is going to be necessary, but a calculator is just fine. If you want to use other ones, you can. Other questions about protocols that you can have in front of you? Basically pretty much everything. This is sort of kind of open book, open notes, except for you should know RSA and yeah, so yeah. Other ones, other questions about what you can have, what you can use, what you might need for computational stuff, etc. Other questions there? No, we're good. Okay. Zoom logistics of a test. So here we go. We can't start class early because I have an 8 o'clock class. So what I'm gonna do is as soon as my 8 o'clock class is over, I will sign in. If you could make an effort, please, to sign in by 9 with video. Jenna and Lucas said video would be fine. John, I don't know about you, if video will work. Video, yes, okay, super. And then Seth is not here today, but he said video would work, and Andrew's not here today, but he made video work for my other tests. So if everybody could please sign in with video, that would be fantastic. I will, once everybody is signed in, I will get the test posted on Moodle. I think that, I'm looking now, give me just a minute. I think I put the place to submit it already, so you can poke around on Moodle at this point in time and see where the test is going to be posted. I'm just double checking to make sure I actually did that. Hang on one second, please. I did. So the test number 2 submission is up there already. You can see where that is, and the test will be posted in that same spot. Once that happens, then you can download it. We'll talk through the basics of the test. If there's anything, I know I said some of this on Friday, but this is all new, so I'm fine repeating it. I'll talk through the basics of the test. I'm also going to have you, while we're waiting for everybody to sign in, send me a private chat in Zoom, just so I know that you know how private chat works, because that's how you can ask questions during the test, and that's how you can tell me when you're done with your test also. So just check out private chat. I'm gonna have you do that on Wednesday before we get going with the test. When you're done with the test, let me know, take a picture of it, send it in as a PDF. Make sure please to convert it to a PDF, that would be fantastic. And then I will remind you of this on Wednesday, but stay on Zoom with video until I confirm that I've received your test in Moodle. And there's more of you in this class, so there might be a slight delay if I get like 3 or 4 tests at the same time. But I wanna make sure that I can open it before you sign off and that anything weird happens. I will have a statement for you at the bottom of the test to sign, basically saying that the stuff that you weren't supposed to use, you didn't have written out, and that you didn't talk to people about math at this point in time. So we can go longer if we need to. In my 8 o'clock class in Foundations, scanning, taking a picture, uploading took a little while, and I do not want to stress you out in terms of, oh my goodness, I have to finish by 9:50 and I have to scan and upload my test and everything like that. So if we go past 9:50, if we go past 10 o'clock, I'm okay with that. We will make it work and figure it out. Okay, honor system, very much an honor system. I feel like I am okay doing that, honestly, but don't go find an online RSA calculator and put stuff in and get your test answered that way. Show me your work. That's the plan. It worked okay in my 8 o'clock class, so we'll see how it works in here. I trust you. This is no different than, well, it's very different than sitting in a classroom and staring at you, but I will exhibit the same level of trust that I would have in a classroom. So questions about the logistics of a Zoom test, how this is gonna work? Anything there?
So just to confirm, we don't have to actually put any answers or anything like that digitally. We can write all our work out.
Correct. You can totally write all your work out. You can take a picture of it, make sure to convert it to a PDF, and then upload it. If you want to type it out, you can, but you don't have to. You can absolutely handwrite it, take a picture of it, and then submit the PDF to Moodle like you've been submitting your homework. Yes. Other logistical questions about a Zoom test? If you think of something after class, feel free to shoot me an email also. Okay, homework then is due Wednesday also. I think I set noon as the time again. If you could, please, this will help me immensely. 2 things. The first is my biggest request. Send a PDF as opposed to sending pictures. I'm going to grade it digitally. I found that I can annotate a PDF and send you comments back that way. So I'm going to grade it digitally, but that makes way more complicated with pictures. So please, 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 please send me a PDF as opposed to pictures. That's my first request. My second request is not as big a deal. If you can, make it into a single PDF file. If you can't, that's okay. I can combine them, but it is easier if you can send it to me as a single PDF file. But the first one is the most important. Please don't send me pictures. Send me PDFs. That makes my life much, much easier. Speaking of homework, are there any homework questions? Jason, I got yours. And you had a question on number 4, I think. I closed out my email and was having overflow issues. I think it was 4. Let me pop this back up and see. Sorry, 1 second. 3, number 3. If you are having overflow issues in Perry, I think it is number 4. If you're having overflow issues in Perry, break it up and use PowerMod for a bunch of different smaller things. So for example, in the Elgamal signature scheme, you have to do b to the y times y to the z mod p. You're probably going to need to do b to the y with a PowerMod, y to the z with a PowerMod, and then multiply those 2 together and do p. Jason, mod p. I think that's going to help you with your question. So you might have to do 2 separate PowerMods and then multiply those 2 together and take that result mod p. When in doubt, use a PowerMod, and when in doubt, use 2 separate PowerMods and multiply the results together. Other questions on homework? Anything else? Rachel, yes.
For number 3, when I was working through that one, there was like,
Wait, 1 second, sorry. Homework number 3, finding my homework assignment. Homework number, oh, I didn't print it out, that's why.
I can just send an email.
Sorry, I don't have a printer at home, so I've been printing out way less stuff than I do usually, and I normally have all my homework assignments in my binder, and I don't at this point in time. Okay, popping it up, sorry, give me just a second. Homework number 3. Oh, okay, yes, Elgamal signature scheme, yes, go ahead.
don't you have to choose like a random value, and that would impact like the key that comes out? So therefore you don't know what random value they picked, right?
You don't. That's okay. So you are given their public key. So it is totally true that you don't know their random value, but you do know their public key. And that should be enough for you to figure out who signed the message. I'm just looking now, I have this in my answer. So you are trying to verify, well, okay, so my suggestion would be to sign each of these using their public key and see which one matches. try it that way.
Okay, I think I was doing something else, so that's
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Sign each of them using their public key, see which one you get out. So it's true that you don't know their random value, but if you have their public key, that should be enough to give you the information. Okay. Other questions? Other questions on homework? Anybody else? No? Good? Happy? Okay. Other questions on the test? Anything? All right. I will try to sign in by about 8:55 or so on Wednesday. Again, if you could, please make sure to sign in with a video, and I'll probably send an email reminder on Tuesday just to get that going as well. But if you have questions between now and Wednesday, shoot me an email, let me know. Don't forget that I do also have virtual office hours tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 2:30. I'm meeting with a couple of people, but if somebody pops in with a question, we can interrupt the meeting, etc. So thank you. Have a good day. Happy studying. And I will see you on Wednesday. Thanks, guys.